Welcome back to the Mindbender Mental Performance Podcast. I hope everybody had an incredible, happy freedom, happy Independence Day as we think about things like the Stamp Act and the Declaration of Independence and the Boston Tea Party and the Second Continental Congress. I mean, wow. Incredible day for America yesterday as the fireworks went boom. A quote by the great Sean Carter. Don't forget that boy told you, get that dirt off your shoulders. Today we continue along the book breakdown mini seminar, the book, Let Them Play, a parenting and coaching guide to youth sports. Chapter 6 today, the guiding years. By the way, the author, the great Enrique Byrnes, the cousin to John Gallstar. Back to the book, the guiding years. As much as we like to believe we are still forming the child, in fact, the child at this point may actually be forming us for what's to come. Fuck. Now what? Just be there. Be there to guide the kid who is on the precipice of adulthood. They are dealing with unimaginable hormones and mood swings, so don't take any sort of snaps personally. They are still trying to find themselves in their new body and developing mind. Work hard to meet angst with calm and anger with patience. We should always hold them accountable to be good people. But empathy and grace in these years is critical. Man, the middle of that there is, it sounded like something Bruce Lee would say. And I know Bruce Lee, a staple in the Byrnes household as a young boy, with his dad being a 4th degree Kempo karate black belt. And I believe at one point, dare I say, even sparred with the legendary Bruce Lee. A story for another time. Maybe the author will join us for an AMA when we come to the conclusion of the book breakdown mini seminar. Banana chew, banana koozie, good. Back to the book. But before we work hard to meet angst with calm and anger with patience. That's the yin and the yang. That's Zen. And Zen. Back to the book. We should always hold them accountable to be good people, but empathy and grace in these years is critical. Sometimes we forget how long it took us to become perfect. Wow, And then oftentimes the things that frustrate me, the things that, I'm fascinated by, rather, and I go, in my own children, it's something that it's some sort of an example that they've seen or something that if I look deep enough, also do or have done. So the empathy then comes in. Let me adjust the dig here. I've got a couple photos off kilter because of the dig. I just got a couple comments. Be curious, not judgmental, but people want to hear the dig. We'll get back to the book, but let me shoot a little dig off. Whew! Adequate dig, elite neck vein. Back to the book. Preparation and approach. At this age, the biggest impact we can have is by teaching them how to properly prepare while maintaining a consistent approach for the game and life. Teach them about the value of a routine and then help them create one that works within the confines of their schedule. That's great. Oftentimes we think it's about some speech from a coach. Really, it's more than the speech. It's both. It's both the speech and the system. It's both the story, the system, and the speech. It's all of it working together like a giant Venn diagram, overlapping when it needs to and being independent of the other pillars of it when it needs to be. So preparation, as we all know, the separation's in the preparation, and practice is where the action is. So, and then going back to not just the preparation, because when we say what are our controllables, which is everything in sport, it's our appearance, how we show up. Are we 10 feet tall and bulletproof? Are we dialed in? Do we got everything looking sharp? We got our checklist, our pre-game, pre-practice, pre-play routine, the checklist of things that we need. We've got our hydration. We've got our nutrition. got our sliders. We've got our eye black. Maybe it's a tricolor. Preparation. So teaching them how to properly prepare, preparation. And then while maintaining a consistent approach to the game and life. Man is a slave of to his habits and routines. So said the great OG Mandingo. Teach them about the value of a routine. Especially with the younger groups. They're not so ready to be machines of routines quite yet as some of the more experienced veteran players are. However, this is something that over time, with properly spaced repetition, right? We don't want to give them too much too soon, but give them what they can handle. Make it the next best step. Make it easy for them to take that next best step. Because we've talked about this before, sometimes the distance between where we are to where we want to go is far. And so people freeze in horror and terror of the distance between where you are and your, meek, poor in spirit, lowly, pathetic self and that guy over there. So make it easy to take the next step. And that way we can do a little, a lot, not a lot, a little. It's the story of the magic penny. Back to the book. Teaching them about the value of a routine and then help them create one that works within the confines of their schedule. And do they have a schedule? Even just a few, we call them MITs, most important tasks. Do they have 3, 4, or 5 throughout the day that would make up the ingredients for a good, high quality day? And if not, let's build out a schedule. What time do you go to bed? What time do you wake up? Here's what we do when we wake up. Here's our work or practice or play block. Here's our fun block. Here's our family block. Here's our PM routine. Good. Back to the book. Ultimately, whether or not your child or star player, quote, makes it, end quote, however you want to define that term, isn't up to us. It is solely up to them and their obsession to be great. So I think now that we're in the guiding years here, we're getting to the point. I mean, my kid's 9, but when they start getting 13, 14, 15, now all the other sports that they've been playing start to slowly, potentially drift away if they're not in competing seasons. And a kid gets obsessed with one craft. And look, if somebody's going to talk about obsession, he's telling us not to be obsessed and insane the entire time, but now it's the guiding years. Now we've got to teach the kid the force. Okay? It's the kumite. All right, back to the book. Make no mistake about this very critical fact. If you want to be great, you have to be obsessed. Whether or not a kid becomes obsessed is completely outside of our control. Sure, we can lead the horse to water, and we might even be able to force that horse to take a few sips. But in order for the horse to take down the entire trough, that horse must be obsessed. Let's stop it right there. How about the troughs in Wrigley Field? If you ever been there and you're a man consuming this content right now, you know what I'm talking about. The troughs. I told Elijah about that, but he's a locker room guy now. So the troughs, he's like excited about the troughs in Wrigley for his 10th birthday. All right. Yeah, I think that's really important. Our kids, before we go back to the book, our kids, they might not listen to us, but they sure as shit are going to imitate us. What are our habits and routines? We need to make sure we're keeping our side of the street clean first before we start handing out lessons and judgments and rules from our, cloud of judgment, hurling rocks down at the rest of the people. So yeah, make your bed first, like the great general told us. Okay, let's go back to the book here. We are live, no filter network, the world's premier live streaming interactive and event hosting platform. Oh, hey, Alex! It's my neighbor, Alex, raging every day. Hangs out with water polos people. They're nuts. Back to the book. Whether or not a kid becomes obsessed is completely outside of our control. Sure, we can lead that horse to water, and we might even be able to force that horse to take a few sips, but in order for the horse to take down the entire trough, that horse must be obsessed. Why did I read it again? Because stop forcing the horse to go take sips. And in fact, might not be a horse. Might be an alpaca. Might be a wolf. You might be dealing with a different kind of animal. So don't force it. Let it develop, but be the guide. Yoda wasn't screaming at Luke Skywalker. Back to the book. You name the greatest athletes of all time, and the number one trait every single one of them had was an obsession to be great. Michael Jordan, obsessed. Our dear friend of the program, Sir Lancelot Armstrong, obsessed. Michaela Schifrin, obsessed. The great Barry Bonds, greatest of all time, ASU alumni, obsessed. Tom Brady, who the author of this book, Byrnes, told to go play baseball. Obsessed. Tony Gwynn, obsessed. Serena Williams, obsessed. Tiger Woods, obsessed. Love you, Tiger. The list goes on and on. Many of these same people had their obsession eventually work against them. The same obsession that made them the best at their craft inevitably backfired and contributed heavily to their demise. I want to take a minute here. I think, who comes up? Tiger, Lance, of course. All these, but I always said, Tiger, if you would have came out and just said, look, I'm Tiger motherfucking Woods. I go out and I turn into Tiger as soon as I step onto the course. I'm the one-shot warrior. I'm the executioner out there. So, look, that bled into every aspect of my life. And things in certain aspects of my life, I made unproductive decisions. But I'm not going to let that stop me from being Tiger motherfucking Woods. So I'm not going to sit up here and apologize. Do I feel, this guilt, and do I feel shame? I feel both. Maybe one disproportionate from the other. But I'm Tiger fucking Woods, and I'll be at the Masters in 2 days getting ready to put on another green jacket. Thank you for your time. I'm sorry to my family to put you through that. That's what you should have done. I'm a diverter. That's what my Aunt Donna told me. May she rest in paradise. Back to the book. With obsession often comes selfishness, and a win-at-all-cost attitude, which can often blur the lines of right and wrong. If we are fortunate to parent and or coach an obsessed, quote, obsessed, end quote, athlete, it's imperative to continue to guide the obsession in the right direction. Obsess the process, not the outcome. Hold it right there. Process over outcome. We preach that all the time. Boom. Right here with some context around it. Love it. Back to the book. The neglect of elements of the process, such as balance, joy, sleep, and overall long-term health, are what so often contribute to an unhealthy obsession. We talk about, let's take a pause. We talk about all the time the core four: how we eat, how we move, what our mindset is, and how we're sleeping. So essentially saying the same thing here. Love that. Back to the book. Obsess work ethic, process, progress, effort, attitude, and a little bit of grace. Let's pause right there. Again, this is just so rich. We've got to stop. We talk about APE, our controllables: APE, attitude, appearance, preparation, performance, how we perform, not the results of how we perform, but how we perform, and then energy and effort. So same thing here. And then what I love that he added to it, and which I'm going to steal from him, is grace. Man, we forget. We got to look. And sometimes it's like we've got to look to give grace, not get it. We got to look to understand, not be understood. We got to look to give love, not get the love. Back to the book. Let the kids' obsession work for them and not against them. For instance, there was no question that from the time I was 13 years old until I walked away from the game at 34, I was obsessed. During my high school football season, I would wake up and hit 100 baseballs before school and then bang out 100 more under makeshift lighting in the darkness after football practice. Everything I did, everything I read, everything I watched, every conversation I had was done under the pretense of, quote, how will this make me a better baseball player? End quote. Stop right there. I just got the chills. I mean, is there anything more profound? Don't we have a moral obligation to aim up, to do the best we can? Aim up in our speech, aim up in our thoughts, aim up in our actions and our behaviors and the way that we treat others, our relationship, our connection to the mystery and the magic and the wonder of the fact that we're just here on earth. So, and in this pursuit of becoming great at your craft and being obsessed with it, also that comes with that is the whole piece is what we're talking about here, everything. Because it doesn't matter if you become that thing that you want. Who do you become along the way? Is there anybody around you? Or are you at the top of the mountain sipping the juice all by yourself because you lost everyone along the way? Because you were too much mercenary and not enough missionary. Back to the book. Being on a football team made me a better baseball player, and I knew it. Developing a general athleticism and footwork while playing other sports was vital in my overall development as an athlete. Stop it right there. Elijah and I have been playing a ton of tennis. We call them the barracks, but my old high school in the back end of the high school has 4 giant rebound walls that go across maybe, I don't know, like a 60-yard distance. And there's just one giant slab of cement that goes across. And then you have the 4 rebound walls. Man, I'll take them over there. We'll hit for a couple hours and we could go hit inside, but it's here. And then he said, Dad, I want to play as many sports as I can. And I think that's because Byrnes from the very beginning, me from the very beginning, when he was 1 year old hanging around with Biscuit and seeing that example of Chloe, Callie, Colton, Byrnes's kids playing all these different sports, then he said, cool, that's the path. Success leaves clues. They're elite. Okay, cool. I'm going to listen to Uncle E. Yeah, I'm going to do, oh, cool. Yeah, I'm going that way. So it's neat to see because he goes, yeah, I get different movements. I get to go back. I get to go forward. I get to go this way. I get to go that way. I get to see the ball hit the wall and then guess where it's going to go. All really important. Has a crossover benefit to your main sport. Once you do go, okay, I'm burning the boats. That's the thing I'm going to do. The great Drew Brees, I remember, told a story once that he said, no shot I would have been the NFL quarterback. I was no shot if it was not for tennis. If it was not for him playing tennis. Speaking of, I just finished the great book, The Inner Game of Tennis by Tim Galloway. If you haven't read it, go get it. It is really great reading about self one and self two. Good. Back to the book. Let's go back to the book here. Where are we? Yep. Cool. Okay. Different sports. Turn the page. Here we go. Back to the book. The good thing for me was that I poured my obsession into my work, and whenever I faced any sort of failure, disappointment, or adversity, the solution was simple. Work harder, work longer, work smarter. Stop right there. We talk a lot about, work wins, and there's very much a Western ethos of, grind, 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 grind. But also at the end, he says, work smarter. I was asked the other day by Elijah's new youth coach, his local league coach here. Is it quality over quantity? And I said, it's both. It's quality and quantity. You just heard I was obsessed. I'm knocking hundreds of balls every day, but he did it with intention. He did it with aim. He took committed swings. He was mentally and physically locked in to execute each pitch. He was probably going through his pre-pitch routine, working on his breath. Quality and quantity. Work wins, though. The cure-all usually is massive action for anything. It's like a diesel engine. Tons and tons of energy in a confined space creates an explosion. Back to the book. Right or wrong, how we react to failure is how people will ultimately judge our character. When we react with excuses and idleness by taking our ball and going home, we will be perceived as quitters, incapable of handling adversity. Yet, when we respond with accountability and work, we will be viewed as a great teammate who has a burning desire to get better. Stop it right there. How we react to failure, how we respond to when we don't get the outcome that we want. Oftentimes as athletes, we're going, I was terrible. I sucked. Oh, I was great. I was in flow. I was in the zone. Maybe we should start to recategorize how we post our performance, go down about the way that we do and execute, how well we execute it. It's just maybe we did execute the pitch, or we did not execute the pitch. That's it. And then if I did not execute the pitch, was I getting a little bit sped up? Was I doing my pre-pitch routine? Was I going to my breath? Was I doing my 2-strike approach? Was I going to my signal lights and stepping out of the box and getting a breath on the left field foul pole, let it go? Coming back to a big breath on the sweet spot of the barrel. Going through my 3 keys to keep it simple. I choose confidence. Energy is my edge. I hunt and attack pitches in the zone. I'm confident. I'm cocky. I'm the next Rocky. If you don't have a plan, then plan to fail. It's in the good book. All right. Back to the book here. He says something here. How we react to failure is how people ultimately judge our character. Now there's so much talent in sport, so much talent. I know I've known 8-year-olds. We all know them, who has hitting coaches and throwing coaches and fielding coaches, and they're going to S&C guys, and it's crazy. It's mind-bending. But what I don't see an emphasis on when we talk about baseball being 90% mental is we're training at less than 10% of the time. So the mental game, I think, is what, and controllables is what we should go all in on. Go all in on the things that we can control and let go of the things which we cannot. There's so much talent that now scouts and people are actually not hoping, but when a pitch is not executed, whether it's as a position player, whether it's you didn't execute on the base pass, whether you didn't execute as a pitcher, whether you didn't execute in the box, they want to see how you respond. Because you see, in between the stimulus and the response, in the middle is the pause, is the breath. So that awareness of, are you breathing, man? That's number one. Bigger the moment, bigger the breath. And then, quitters. He talks about we will be perceived as quitters, incapable of handling adversity. Winners never quit and quitters never win. And you've heard of NDCQ. Not dead, can't quit. If you've got a fixed mindset and you don't get the outcome you want, I suck, maybe this isn't for me. No, that's a fixed mindset. You got to have a growth mindset. We got to know that failure is fuel. Failure is feedback. It's going to give us the things that we need to go, what did I do well? What can I be doing better? And how am I going to do it? And then you reflect and refocus on your performance and go back and do it again. Then he says here, what we're talking about, when we respond with accountability and work, we will be viewed as a great teammate. You want to be viewed as a great teammate. What are your teammates going to say about you when you're done playing? I think that's a very important question to ask yourself. And I tell Kukua this all the time. And I believe Byrnes talked about this back in the day, but who do you learn the most from? Your teammates. So the more that a team can connect and share about the game, about life, the more connected they will be. And the more opportunity you have to execute more pitches collectively as a team and get more good outcomes. Back to the book. Obsession can be a great thing, but it must be controlled, and it's imperative we teach kids how to keep the proper perspective of long-term growth versus short-term rewards when dealing with losses and other perceived failures. There is no shortcut to the top, and hard work is the only way to get there. So, stopping right there for a minute. Long-term versus short-term growth. When you think about long-term growth versus short-term, I think about it as a telescope, long-term goals, microscope. How are we going to get there? Break it into smaller chunks, doing a lot, making it easy. We've heard of the GPS analogy where I have the tires, I have the car, I have the gas, I've got the GPS dialed in, I've got everything. I got cold AC, I've got everything I need. I got snacks in the cooler. If I leave at midnight to go to my destination and it's 2,000 miles away across the country, I can't get there without headlights. And the headlights only beam up to about 150, 200 feet. So the point is, we know where we want to go, but we've got to go the next 200 feet. Just go the next 200 feet. So in the fruits of any journey, if the fruits of all the journeys were right at the beginning, everybody would be getting fulfilled in Las Vegas, but they're not. The fruits of any great journey, any great undertaking, the hero's journey, they're down the line. They come later. But there's little wins along the way. And then he says, long-term growth versus short-term rewards when dealing with losses. Remember, loss, learning, opportunity, stay strong. That's right, bro. Good. Back to the book. Kids watch how coaches and parents react or respond to adversity, and then more often than not, they mirror our behavior. When we make excuses, they make excuses. When we are over-emotional, they are over-emotional. When we are accountable, they are accountable. When we maintain proper perspective, they typically will maintain proper perspective. The baseball is life mantra that dominated the 90s and early 2000s is a fun saying, but even with the obsession, it's bullshit. Baseball is a game, and it consumes the lives of the obsessed, but by no means is baseball life. Life is defined by our relationships with God, family, and friends. Life is ultimately measured by the knowledge accumulated through our experiences and then our ability to pass on that knowledge to the next generation of hard chargers. Life is making sure we do everything in our power to leave people and things better than we found them. Life is learning. Life is loving. Life is giving. Life is listening. Life is mentoring. Life is teaching. Life is coaching. Life is dreaming. Life is hoping. Life is believing. Life is experiencing. Life is a lot of fucking things, but baseball or any other sport is not one of them. Oh, man. That is fucking awesome. Let's take a pause right here. That is great. Wow. Life is defined by our relationships with God, family, and friends. Because family, friends, in full sense, right? So ultimately right here, what I think of when I read that profound reading from a guy who actually has been there and done it and tells you exactly it's not life. So let's make sure that we have our connection to what's important clearly defined so that we can separate who and do. We can separate who we are from what we do as an elite level sport, as our craft, whatever that is. Separating who and do. Fantastic. Nothing more needs to be said. Back to the book. Bottom line, when dealing with young adults in the 13 and above guiding years, let's make sure we do just that. Guide. Guide the kid to establish a relentless work ethic. Guide the kid to establish a routine. Guide the kid to establish a consistent approach. Guide the kid to establish a positive mindset. Guide the kid to all of the necessary tools that will help them build and maintain their establishments. Then, just be there. Okay. So that concludes chapter 6, the guiding years. It's my favorite chapter so far. Now, guide the kid to establish a relentless work ethic. When you think about the Ole Miss baseball team, Mike Bianca, I think, is a coach at the time. Their core principles were REBS, relentlessness. That is like having the personal will to continue to do the system of things that you do every day to get the result you want, because it's today plus today plus today plus today plus today that equals your goals. So that relentless work ethic, 100% of what you got on the day to be better than you were yesterday. Because not every day is going to be great, but it don't have to be terrible. You can have a good shitty day. And then he says, guide the kid to establish a routine. I mean, we have to have routines and habits of excellence. One of the core pillars here. So routines and habits of excellence. How important is it? It's incredibly important. Anybody that I've ever worked with, that my mentors have ever worked with, they've established routines. And then they become a machine of routine, or those things that contribute to them winning the morning, winning the remainder of the day, is establishing a routine. We use something called Success Checklist. We do that through an application called Habit Share. If you don't have Habit Share, go get it. And then friend request me. Kowalski at mindbendermentalperformance.com or Kowalski Michael, the number 1 at gmail.com. That's KOWALSKI MICHAEL, the number 1 at gmail.com. Friend request me. We'll get on. Next, guide the kid to establish a consistent approach, because consistency enlarges all ability. Consistency is a superpower. That's the story of the magic penny. I give you $2 million cash right now, or a penny that doubles every day for 31 days. Because after 31 days, that penny is $10.2 million. Consistency is a superpower. Doing a little, a lot is a superpower. Knowing what to do, having the telescope vision, and then putting it in the microscope and doing a little, a lot. The one-armed bricklayer from Baghdad, he laid the brick wall one brick at a time. Guide the kid to establish a positive mindset. This is what we talk about: growth versus fixed mindset, productive versus unproductive, above the line, below the line. So if we're just aware of this, the awareness then triggers the mindset. Awareness, strategy, plan. I'm aware that my mindset is poor and unproductive. I'm aware that it can get better. I'm aware that I have drills and skills that I can do. Taking a minute, doing a 4-4-4 box breath for 4 minutes, going inside, doing some mental imagery, getting out in nature, getting some sun, hanging out with friends, getting on your knees, praying to Master J, giving it to God, putting it at his feet, letting him drive the dreams, and you're just the witness and observer. Back to the book: guide the kid to all the necessary tools that will help them build and maintain their establishments. And that is, when I hear establishments, I think of a mission, a vision, a principles, a one-word focus, 3 keys to keep it simple, 3 affirmations. This is the establishment. This is the scaffolding and the foundation of what can create processes, habits, routines, consistency, and a relentless work ethic. You want to know more, hit me up, 480-529-5756. We got some space to take a few more guys for mental performance and life optimization coaching. So get involved. Byrnesy and I are going to be running some high performance advanced immersive experiences probably at the end of this year and the upcoming year. So stay tuned for that. And again, we call them advances because we're not retreating from shit. Banana Chew, all the people out there, thank you for joining me live on another broadcast of the Mindbender Mental Performance Podcast. It's been an honor and a privilege to be with you. This is the day the Lord has made. Let us go forth to love and to serve. The best is yet to come, and it begins before it begins.